Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Nugget of Encouragement. I am Sharonda here from Purposely Fit. I am so excited. We are making our way through May here. It is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I have invited some of my closest friends on here just to share their stories, to talk about how they have been, what they have been through, what they are making it through. Also, when it revolves around mental health and situations and circumstances in their life. As I always say, I'm not going to ramble on because I want them to share their story. I want you to hear how God is helping them through and have helped them through their situations and circumstances. So today, the person you are going to hear from is a brother of mine. You've heard from my sisters. Now you get to hear from a brother. Chris, welcome, welcome. I'm so excited to have you on here. So excited for you to share your story. If you could just say hello to everybody and give us a little bit of background about yourself.
Hi, thank you for having me here. This is a pleasure to be able to share my story and be able to hopefully help somebody else in their journey with mental health and what they're dealing with. So I'm 43. I have two amazing kids. I am a personal trainer. Coast Guard vet. Been through a lot in life, walked a lot of roads, and then this is where I'm at now. Yeah, so I'm happy to be here.
Awesome, awesome. So you mentioned that mental health that has been a struggle for you, and maybe even currently. So we wanna kind of dive into that. What amazes me the most about your story is how you took something that a lot of us see as intimidation and turned it into something positive when it comes to being obese and just being
Yeah,
overweight, and
yeah.
how the world looks at you and how you transform not only yourself but your mentality and just pull that together. Tell us a little bit about that.
So yeah, I was as you know, Sharon, I was 340 pounds at one time in my life. Always been a big guy. I know that we're going to talk about that. Like I've always struggled with obesity, always been husky as a kid, high school being 230 pounds, always being made fun of for being overweight. Got into a lot of fights as a kid, a lot of reacting because of the bullying and stuff like that happened in my life. But as I got older, it wasn't as bad. People accept you, they just embrace you. But I still had my mom always telling me, you need to lose some weight, and then offer me cookies, right? Like that type of thing, and it just wears you down mentally. And then just through life circumstances of getting depressed and eating my emotions and just continuing gaining weight. So I wasn't always 340 pounds. I think I was 230 in the Coast Guard. I was 200. And then I got out and I started eating a lot more and eating my emotions and not being physically active and just living life and sitting around, shooting the breeze with people and stuff like that. And yeah, I went to, I had faith. I go to church, believe in Jesus. And that's a huge aspect of mental health is having that faith of Jesus Christ. It's not just a spiritual aspect of him. It's a holistic health aspect with Jesus, but there's other aspects that God has created that we need to implement in our lives, and that's physical activity and eating better. And I wasn't aware of that until I got to the point where I was so mentally depressed and anxiety that, quite frankly, I wanted to end it just because of what was happening in life. And so I had to do some research because the doctors and the counselors, they want to put you on drugs automatically, and I'm not a huge fan of antidepressants and stuff like that. And I understand there's people that need those things, that really struggle with when they need some medications, and God's allowed that. God gave us doctors for a reason, and so I respect them and no bash to them whatsoever. However, I'm not. That's not for me. I want to try to do everything naturally I can to help myself be the best that I can for not just myself, but my kids and the people in my relationships, and for Jesus, because we're on this planet. This is our body. This is His holy temple. So therefore, let's do the best we can. And so researching and seeing about strength training and how strength training is actually one of the best ways to fight depression. And so I mean, go figure, right? Like doing physical activity that involves resistance actually helps you and betters your mental state. And that got me in the gym. That was the start of my process was okay, I can sit here in self-pity and really go down a dark path because life has handed me so much. The things that I have been through, you know the stuff that I've been through, whether it's being abused or in life being bullied or rejected or homeless and all those different things in life. So life hands you a bad deal, right? And you can blame God and you can sit there, well, God, if you love me, you should do this, or God, if you do this, right? And you can start to become the victim. And I have that and I understand that because I was starting to become the victim and my mental health was crashing. But when you look at the blessings that God has given you, two wonderful children, relationships and friendships and stuff to not just take for granted and you start to realize, okay, I need to do something. If not, then it's going to be totally selfish act and it's going to be against God, what he wants. And I don't want to leave this life not knowing what my kids do, and so fighting fighting depression the natural way by engaging in physical activity has totally transformed my life and has totally set me on a different trajectory than I ever imagined. And so 340 pounds, obese, now down to 215, by completely changing my lifestyle based off of fighting mental health and trying to be better mentally.
Wow, what an amazing story and testimony there. And yes, of course, I do know much of that. And I'm always inspired when you reshare the story because I think it's imperative for us to just share what we have, the reality of our lives. When we get on social media and we have a social media platform, a lot of times you see about 20 to 30% of the
Right.
reality of what people are really facing and what they're going through. So this is the whole purpose of what we're doing here is just bringing different people on, telling their testimony, giving their story, real life stuff. And your testimony is absolutely amazing. And I know it's going to bless many and it's going to encourage many that is thinking that, okay, well, I'm just too far gone. I'm too fat.
Right.
That's what you hear.
Right.
And you mentioned the bullying and all that. And I do want to hone in on that just a little bit, going back to the whole childhood thing, because I think what we overlook is that a lot of these things that we deal with once we become adults are things that were never addressed in our childhood.
Right.
So
Right.
you said that as a young child, you've always been a little overweight, this, that, and the other. Do you believe that there was some marks missed in the mental health portion of it as well when you were younger that really contributed to you to continuously overeat? Because I did hear you say you were in the Coast Guard. So from my understanding, any military branch, you're supposed to be relatively healthy.
Right.
You're supposed
Right.
to be. But
Right.
but yeah, tell me a little bit about that. Just being so young, dealing with being overweight, and can you remember back having any type of mental health issues even back then?
Yeah, I think that I did have mental health issues, and we're in a different day and age. There's a lot of good in this day and age, and there's a lot of bad. We're not here for that. The good aspect of today is that things are more like we talk about things a little bit more open, especially in men's health. There's a lot of push for women's health, which is right, in different ethnic health and stuff like that, which is 100%. But a lot of times, and I'm not here to just make a platform for men's health, but a lot of times for men, we get brushed aside. Like you have to suck it up, you have to just swallow it, be strong, be that, and don't talk about your feelings because there have been trends of when we do share our feelings, we're looked at as weak and we're looked at as oh, he's just an emotional wreck. And it just, there's so much negative so much negative attention when it comes to mental health for men. And so I think that is already instilled into our society, especially as Americans. And I don't understand why, because we don't have to be so negative towards men's health, right? And you know real quick, men have the most suicide in the world. The most suicide are men, and it's because of our our way we have been brought up in our mental health and not being able to feel like we have a place to share without being judged or ridiculed or gossiped or whatever, right? And so growing up, I do believe that there's a lot of mental health that I missed. My father left when I was 2, so and I remember like stopped seeing him at 5. So there's rejection right there, right out the gate. I'm hitting rejection, and there was not a fight for me. If there was a fight, it'd be different, but there wasn't a fight. It was a total abandonment. It was like, no, I'm not going to fight to see you. It's almost like you're not my son, right? So it's total rejection, and I know that separation and stuff like that has a major split automatically. There's already negative into that because of the destruction of a relationship. But then to push your son away at 5 years old and never see him again is total abandonment, right? And so you have that aspect, and then so that played a factor into my mental health. And then my stepfather was physically, emotionally, verbally abusive, probably mentally that I don't remember. I Sharonda, I got an earring when I was in younger. I had an earring in my I can't remember. Remember the side? Like you had to have it on a certain side as a man. You couldn't have it on both. And my stepfather would call me the negative word for homosexual. Like
Wow.
just straight call me that. You blank, just made fun of me, everything. I've always been made fun of for my weight in my family. So those closest to you do the most damage, right? And we know that. So my family, not only my stepdad is physically abusive, emotionally abusive, now he's verbally speaking over my life that I'm homosexual because I have an earring and I'm not even in middle school, right? Or I'm like just in middle school, 6th grade or something. And then you have the negative content, the negative speaking over your life of you're stupid because you didn't pass. Like I was horrible in school. I was not the best student. I wanted to be outside and play sports. That's what I wanted to do. I didn't like to read. I got into comic books because I was failing reading in 4th grade, and the teacher was like, "Look, he's not reading." And I was like, "Yeah, I hate books." And they were like, "Get him into comic books," and I fell in love with comics. That's where my love for comics comes from, and all the superhero. But I was called stupid majority of my life from my family members. Um, and so you have the rejection and abandonment of a father without even fighting for his kid. Then you have the stepfather calling you names. Then you have your mom and everybody else calling you stupid. And that just keeps happening. And then when we get to high school, then you have other kids picking on you, making fun of you. Um, and then I started gaining weight. Like I told you, I was 230 pounds at my senior year of high school. And I always had this self image of, yeah, look how fat I am. Right. So now we're having self mental abuse happening. Look how fat I am. Nobody likes me. I'll never get a girlfriend. Right. All these things that are going through in life. And then because of like circumstances, I went into the Coast Guard. And there was a lot of mental abuse there as well that I'm still starting. I'm just now starting to really process and work through. I went in. I was 215 pounds. Now in the Coast Guard, according to my height, I'm 5'10". I should be 180 pounds. Okay, me at 180 pounds looks like a skeleton. I've been there. My body rejected it and went back the other way. And I could tell you the story of how I got there in this process. But so 215 is what I'm at now. I didn't look like I did now. I was actually not as, you know, because I do a lot of strength training, so it's a little bit more muscle. But I looked pretty good at 215. And the Coast Guard did like they tape you here, they tape you around your neck and around your waist, and they realized that my wrists were like 8.5 inches, so like I'm actually bigger built. Um, and so 205, so 180 to 205 was now my new max weight. So 205 was doable. I can get my body to 205, and I did. Went into boot camp. I lost down to 185 in boot camp because I was extremely sick. I probably got bronchitis and walking pneumonia, and I refused to go to the medical because of I didn't want to get stay in boot camp longer. So I just fought it off, and I got back out, and I went back up to about 196 pounds, and that's where I usually stayed in the Coast Guard. And yeah, we were physically active, but we weren't as physically active as like the Marines or the Army. We didn't have to run a lot. We had to swim, so I did swimming. But in the military, I actually got made fun of for my weight as well. I was called Pop Tart on the cutter. That was my nickname, was Pop Tart, because one night during watch, I was so tired, I just ate Pop Tarts, and so they called me Pop Tart. I started lifting, didn't know what I was doing about lifting. Which, if you don't know about lifting, please ask for help. The community of fitness is there to help you, not to make fun of you. So I just wanted to put that little caveat in there as a trainer, like ask for help, because I had no idea about lifting until I was 38 years old, and now I'm 43. So I started lifting weights, but had no idea what to do. Always had this image that I wanted to be like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I always wanted to be like that. I was like, yeah, one day I'm gonna be like that. I had no idea the amount of work and steroids he did, but I always wanted to be like Arnold. That was my dream. But I didn't know what I was doing. I bought protein, and I remember one day going back to the cutter, opening up my protein after a workout, right? Open up my protein, about to take the scoops out. There were Pop Tarts in there. There were Reese's Pieces in there. There was Hershey's bars in there. And my two immediate supervisors come into the birthing area and like, Alex, what is this? You're hiding your snacks? And made fun of me.
Wow.
So my whole life, I have been made fun of at some level. Um, yeah.
Wow.
And I just realized something. So
Goodness.
sorry. Sorry.
No.
So I fought that for 4 years in the Coast Guard. Now, because of that, I'm not a person to just sit back and I swallow it and let's do something about it. I'm a person of action. It might not be the right action all the time, but I do action. And what I did was, back then they had the drug ephedra, and ephedra came out in weight loss pills called hydroxycut or Stacker 2. And you would take that, and it is a Chinese herb that increases your heart rate, increases your metabolism, increases things, like gives you, like, its natural speed is what they called it. However, the side effects is it narrows your blood vessels. So your heart is pumping faster, your blood vessels are smaller. And so there was a Baltimore Orioles player who died because of ephedra, like just had a heart attack, and he was like in his 20s. So it is now banned. It is not a drug that is, or a supplement that is allowed in the United States, nor should anybody take it. So I'm not endorsing it. However, because of the mental abuse and the people making fun of me of Pop Tarts and calling me fat and stuff like that, I took ephedra. Ephedra got me down to 180 some pounds. And so this is a wrong way to look at mental health and fitness, is reacting in a response that is negative so that you can prove somebody else wrong. Your job is to help yourself get better in the best way possible, right? And that's mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical. So your job is to do that. And the best way to do that is to find the support group that can help you in a positive way, guide you in the right way, and help you mentally and physically achieve the goals that you have. And that is going to people like your friends that are positive and speaking to you, that are already into fitness, or going to a personal trainer, or going to, like, just, there are people out there that are in your corner. And you have to remember those people and not neglect them, because they're going to help you achieve your goals. I did not do that until I was later on in life. So when I started my weight loss journey back then, it was crash diets, it was slim fast, it was ephedra. Like I could take ephedra and run 4 miles, no problem, and then swim for 30 minutes without any food, right? But then I started getting pain in my shoulders. I started dry heaving, all the negative side effects. And so mental health, what we do to people causes a negative reaction in their life. And then we have to be mindful of that. And so because of what happened in the Coast Guard, because of everything that happened in my life with obesity, I went a negative route saying, I'm going to show you. And I almost really damaged my heart and my life because of that, instead of saying, okay, how do I correctly exercise and eat right so that I can be better and not worry about them. Right. And that's hard to do when you're 20. That's hard to do when you're 21 because you don't know. All you've known is brokenness. And then after that, when I got out of the Coast Guard, so I also drank. I didn't know Jesus until I turned 22 when I was in the Coast Guard. That's how I came to Christ. So I would drink a lot, try to drown my sorrows in that. And then, I maintained the weight off while I was in the Coast Guard. I think after I got off ephedra and finally decided not to do that and actually eat again, I got back up to 196, 200, somewhere in that range, which is acceptable for the Coast Guard. And then I would drink. And then I got out of the Coast Guard. And when I gave my life to Christ, I still didn't have the right mental state. I still didn't have the right fitness state. Spiritually, I was getting healthy, but the emotional and every aspect that was affecting my physical body was still there. And so I turned from alcohol to food. And then I started eating a lot. Like extra portions, buffets. Like I went up from 215. I remember going to a gym in Louisiana and riding my bike to the gym, lifting weights, doing 20 minutes of Stairmaster and riding my bike back because I was from 215, I was 240 pounds within not even a year of the Coast Guard. Not even a year. It was like right after I got honorably discharged, I skyrocketed 240 pounds, right? Because I was eating pastas, pizzas, ice creams, French fries, McDonald's, Burger King, all the things that are quick and easy and, are acceptable. They're acceptable for our health, which is not really acceptable for our health because it's a whole nother podcast or a whole nother video we can talk about is the fast food industry. And we're not here for that. So, I went down that path, Sharonda, and then I just slowly climbed. And my self-image was horrible the whole time. The whole time. I remember a pastor, we went from, my wife and I went to Oakland, California after Katrina so I can get my bachelor's. And I finally started walking. I love San Francisco and you can walk everywhere in San Francisco. It's just really cool to be able to just, I'm gonna walk down this street or walk this way. Just, you don't have to get a car. You just walk like a regular city. And I remember a pastor who visited us and he saw us and he was like, Chris, man, you lost weight. You're not as big as you were, And it's because I started walking. Like, it's funny, just walk. Yeah, just walk, just walk. And, but it still was the same trend. My mental health was not there. My emotional health was not there. And I just stayed obese. And then I started climbing. I started climbing 265, 275, got here to Virginia, 285. And then I was praying one night because I was like, I got to do something because I'm just so overweight. And I felt like God was telling me to run. And I was like, no, I hate running. I absolutely hate running. And I just got this desire to run. So that night I ran 1.5 miles. Ever since then, I've been an off and on runner. I have a love-hate relationship with running. For those who don't know, we don't. Yeah, for those who don't know, who are listening, cardio, running and swimming are your fastest calorie burners. However, their metabolism burn isn't as long as strength training. So that's why strength training is actually better for losing weight, and cardio is a great supplement to help the process of fat burning. But it's this whole science behind it, and we just don't have time to go there. So running, I started running off and on, but I still ate. I still was not okay mentally. Still being made fun of by people. Um, you know, my mom's still calling me fat. My grandmother's still calling me fat. All the while they're handing me cookies and let's go get a Big Mac, But Chris, you need to lose weight. You don't look good. And just reinforcing that negative since I had as a kid. And yeah, it wasn't until so the military just reinforced it. Just reinforced. So like I love the military. I support the Coast Guard. I support our military, but there's a lot of brokenness in the military. And one of those is the mental health unawareness that they're starting to finally be aware. So many suicides in the military, and they're physically active. They have to be, but there's such a unhealthy work environment of making fun of each other, putting each other down, and then turning to alcohol. Like it's just complete brokenness. And alcohol is not a good health for your physical body. It doesn't bode well for fat loss or for mental health. Alcohol is not good at all for either of those two things. And yet that's huge in the military. And so the military, even though I loved it and I learned a lot, I also was mentally just reinforced of that I'm an overweight fat guy that nobody loves and will never be happy.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much for just going into detail with that. Where I want to go next, because there's so many different directions that we could go, and this video probably could go on and on. We could be here the rest of the day just going on sharing stories. But what's interesting to me is that what I heard the most was the word curses and the negativity that was spoken over your life at such an early age. And at each stage of your growth, it just piled up, and it continued to feed what you came really into agreement with and what you thought about yourself. So even when you tried to make that step towards something positive, you tried to defend, you tried to defeat what was spoken over you, you still did it in a negative way because your mentality was that, okay, deep down inside, I really am fat. I really am nothing. I really am everything that people have called me since a young child. So it's not until actually we're here now that you are still starting to really address the issues and the mental health that problems and discouragement that you got early on that spiraled and caused you to continuously become overweight and live in that obese lifestyle. Wow, what that's so amazing, because I don't think we take seriously how much our words affect others. And that's in the home, outside the home, and especially in the home. It breaks my heart to hear that people so close to you have downgraded you, just condemned you, and this, that, and other. And it makes me take a reflection on myself. What am I speaking over people? What have I spoken over people? Because have my words negatively affected their life to the point that, it caused some type of mental health issue or contributed to it? So thank you so much for sharing and putting that out there, especially for our men, especially. And I do agree 100% that we brush that under the rug a lot, especially here in the USA. Mental health period is just brushed under the rug. But when it comes to men, just like you said, it's swept under the rug because from the beginning we're teaching our boys, oh, suck it up, don't cry, you shouldn't have feelings. Basically, that's what we tell them, and that's so far from the truth, because our Lord and Savior, he had feelings. He cried, he wept. I mean, and you can't get any stronger than that. So, Yeah, just an amazing story, and I am so happy that you were vulnerable with us here and shared your story. Before we wrap it up, I do want to ask them, even though you had those negative words spoken over you, and you had these people around you that were contributing to the downside of your mental health, I want to know who's been your biggest encouragement, who has pushed you to get to where you are now.
That's a very good question. My kids, being there for them has been probably the strongest thing. You know, when I found out how much the physical fitness can change your life, now I want to help other people. That's the reason why I'm a personal trainer, because I don't want somebody to walk through what I went through. And it's really cool because like yesterday I was at GNC and these two, younger man and an older lady, I told them my story about how I've lost weight and now I'm a personal trainer. And they were like glued to me about, okay, what do I eat? How do I do this? Right. And I just was thinking like, man, my kids helped me because I want to be there for them. And I don't want them to struggle the way that I struggled with life. I want them to be further along than I'm further along. I want them to fall in love with fitness and be mentally okay for the rest of their lives, so they don't have to battle what go through. So like, I know that I have the support of you and friends like that, but I think they were the biggest contributing factor to me wanting to totally transform my life. There's also health issues too in my family, and it's like, okay, if I want to be here for them, I have to do my part. Diabetes and all that stuff. Like I have to do my part. Heart disease, I have to do my part because I want to walk my daughter down the aisle. I want to be there to see them graduate college. I want to be there to see them have a family and have grandkids. And I do have a grandkid, and she's so amazing. So I want to be there in their lives. In order for me to be there, I not only do I have to be physically healthy, but I have to be mentally and emotionally healthy as well. So they are the biggest factor of me totally transforming and trying to get better.
Absolutely, absolutely. I can definitely concur with that. My kids, they drive me so much, and just seeing them, they teach me a lot too. One is patience. So that it is a
Right,
journey with
right.
anything that you do. Patience is key. But yes, that's awesome. That's awesome. So last question here. If you were able, and I ask everyone that comes on here, if you were just able to have a microphone or to stand on top of a hill and just reach so many people about how you have overcame or even overcoming mental health and along with obesity, what advice would you give them? What would you let them know?
So, just as Jesus gives us grace, give yourself grace. I would tell them that if you do one thing and be consistent with it, and then do another thing. Do it slow, take your time, and don't beat yourself up if you don't see the results right away. It is consistency. It's the small changes that eventually make the biggest impact in your life. So give yourself time and grace. You didn't get there overnight. Your change isn't going to be overnight. So just relax, be patient with yourself, and forgive yourself. That's what I would share.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Chris, once again, thank you so much for coming on here and sharing. It's always just humbling to me to have someone come on here and share their life story, especially when it has so many twists and turns, such as the story that you have shared with us today. That's a certain amount of vulnerability that you had to place yourself in. So I thank you so much, so much. Before we wrap this up, I just want to let everybody know if you need a personal trainer, Chris Alix right here. Shout out to him. If you want his information, reach out to me. We got you. I hope you are encouraged on today. Just God bless you. God bless you on your continued journey, Chris. Just keep Jesus
Thank you.
first. And we got this, man. Take
All
care.
right. Thank you. Bye.